The sound of Los Angeles never really slept. It hummed and pulsed and sighed beneath the stars, a city made of noise and neon, of laughter and broken dreams. But that night, Amara Williams felt none of it. For her, the world had gone silent. The limousine glided down the empty road, her reflection trembling in the dark glass. She wore a white gown that should have made her feel beautiful, but it didn't. The fabric felt heavy, suffocating, like it was made from promises she never made. Her father sat across from her, his eyes refusing to meet hers. His hands, once strong and warm, now trembled on his lap. Amara wanted to scream, to ask him why he was doing this to her, but she already knew the answer. Money. Debt. Power. He'd sold her to him and she didn't know. When the car stopped, she saw the mansion, vast and cold, glowing like a monster's lair. Cameras flashed, guards moved like shadows, and a priest stood under a white arch decorated with roses that smelled like poison. And then she saw him. Jamin Kemp. Her breath froze. The man standing by the altar, tall, sharp-jawed, dressed in black, was the same boy who'd made her teenage years a living nightmare. High school came flooding back, the laughter in the hallways, the cruel whispers. You don't belong here, Amara, go back to where you came from. He'd been her tormentor, her bully, her worst memory. Now he was her husband. Her legs felt weak as she walked toward him. His gaze followed her, calm and unreadable, but there was something in his eyes she didn't recognize, something dark, deeper than before. When the priest began to vow, her voice barely came out. I do. Jamin didn't blink. I do. 2 words. 2 chains. The applause felt distant, hollow. The photographers smiled, the guests whispered, and the world carried on like it wasn't ending for her. Later, in the car ride to his mansion, silence pressed down like a storm. Amara stared out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks. She finally turned to him. Why me? She asked quietly. You could have anyone. Why me? He looked out his window, his jaw tightening. You'll understand soon. No, she said, her voice breaking. I don't want to understand. You ruined my life once. Wasn't that enough? His eyes turned toward her, cold, sharp. You think I ruined your life, Amara? You have no idea what ruin is. The car fell into silence again. When they arrived, the gates opened slowly, revealing a palace of shadows and marble. She followed him up the stairs, her heels echoing in the stillness. Every portrait on the wall stared down at her, faces of men with the same ruthless eyes. This will be your room, he said quietly, opening a door. My room. He nodded. You'll stay here. I'll have someone bring you clothes. Good. Whatever you need. She looked at him in disbelief. You mean this is our deal? You buy me, and I just live here? He stepped closer, his voice low, controlled. I didn't buy you. I saved you. Her heart pounded. Saved me? From what? He paused, just long enough for her to see the flicker in his eyes. Pain. Memory. Regret. From people worse than me. Then he turned and walked out, leaving her standing alone. That night, Amara sat on the bed, the city lights spilling through the window like ghosts. She couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every moment from the wedding, every look he'd given her. He wasn't the same boy she remembered. The arrogance was still there, but something inside him had cracked, like a man living under the weight of his own sins. As passed before, she heard a knock on the door. A maid stepped in, holding a tray. Mr. Ken asked me to bring this for you. Amara frowned. Tell him I'm not hungry. The maid hesitated. Missy said you'd say that. She set the tray down and left. Curiosity won. Amara lifted the lid, her favorite food, perfectly arranged. How did he remember? Back in school, he teased her about eating it every day. You and your spicy noodles, Williams, her chest tightened. What game was he playing now? The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains. She heard his voice in the hallway, firm, commanding, speaking in Korean. She walked out quietly, watching from a distance. His tone wasn't angry, it was dangerous. This was a man people feared. When he noticed her, his voice softened. You shouldn't wander around. It's my house too now, isn't it? He stared at her for a moment, then looked away. You're safe for inside. Safe from what? She whispered. He didn't answer. Just walked away. Days turned into weeks. They barely spoke, yet the silence between them grew heavier, thicker. Sometimes she'd find him watching her from a distance, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Once, she caught him standing outside her room late at night. Their eyes met, just for a second, before he disappeared down the hall. Every time she tried to hate him, something stopped her. He wasn't kind, but he wasn't cruel either. He brought her books. He made sure she ate. He never touched her, not once. It was like he was keeping a promise to someone she didn't know. And then, one evening, as the rain poured outside, she finally asked the question she'd been holding inside. Why did you really marry me, Jamin? He looked up slowly from his glass of whiskey. The light from the fireplace flickered across his face. Because, he said softly, I couldn't let them have you. Her heart skipped. Who? He hesitated. Then whispered, the people I worked for. The truth hit her like a storm. Jamin wasn't just rich, he was dangerous. Mafia dangerous. He stood, walking toward her, his voice low and haunting. You were dead they wanted repaid. I took the dead instead, her breath caught. So this is pity? He stopped inches away, his eyes locking with hers. No. This is obsession. Her pulse raced as he stepped back, leaving her shaking in the silence. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, Amara realized her life was no longer her own. And maybe her heart wasn't either. The rain outside never seemed to stop. It drummed against the glass, soft and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the city. Inside the mansion, silence ruled, heavy and uneasy. Amara sat by the window, tracing the raindrops as they slipped down the glass. She couldn't stop hearing his words. This is obsession. They echoed in her chest like a warning and a promise all at once. Every day since the wedding, something about Jamin didn't add up. He was quiet, controlled, but his eyes betrayed him. Sometimes when he looked at her, there was anger. Other times, sorrow. And sometimes a kind of desperate tenderness that terrified her more than his silence ever could. That morning, she decided to leave her room. She'd been confined long enough. As she stepped into the hall, she caught the scent of gun oil and smoke. Voices murmured from the office at the end of the corridor. She hesitated, then walked closer. Through the slightly open door, she saw Jamin standing with two men. Papers were spread across the desk. Weapons gleamed under the light. One of the men was speaking in Korean, fast, sharp. She's the reason they're watching us, the man said in accented English. You think bringing her here was smart? They want her back. She's leverage. Jamin's voice was low, steady. They're not touching her, boss. She's not worth the risk. Don't finish the sentence. Jamin snapped, his tone slicing through the room like a blade. Amara's pulse raced. She stepped back quietly, her heart thudding in her chest. He was protecting her, but from what? From who? When she returned to her room, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Later that night, she found a small black device under her bedside table. A tracker. Someone had planted it there. Before she could think, the door opened. Jamin stood there, soaked from the rain, his shirt clinging to his skin. His eyes found the device in her hand. For a moment, something like panic crossed his face. Where did you get that? It was under my table, she said, her voice shaking. Are you spying on me? He grabbed the tracker, crushed it in his palm, and tossed it into the trash. It wasn't me. Then who? He didn't answer. Instead, he locked the door behind him and lowered his voice. Amara, you need to listen to me. If anyone ever asks you questions about me, or this house, you say nothing. Understand? She stared at him, her fear mixing with anger. You dragged me into this. I didn't choose this life. He stepped closer, his tone breaking for the first time. And you think I did? His voice echoed in the room, raw and human. For a moment, the mask fell. She saw the man beneath, the one who looked tired, burdened, almost broken. I've done things, he whispered. Things I can't undo. But I won't let them hurt you. Her throat tightened. Why? Why do you care what happens to me? He looked at her, his eyes full of everything he couldn't say. Because you were the only good thing I ever ruined. Then he walked out, leaving her trembling. Days passed in strange rhythm. Sometimes he disappeared for nights, returning with bruises and blood on his knuckles. Sometimes she'd find him sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. The mansion felt like a prison, yet somehow, when he wasn't there, it felt empty. One evening, she gathered the courage to go into his office. The door wasn't locked. Papers were everywhere, maps, coded notes, pictures of men in suits. And then she saw a folder with her name. Her stomach dropped. She opened it. Inside were photos of her, taken before the wedding. At her college, walking home, sitting at cafes. Some were years old. He'd been watching her. Her hand shook as she flipped through them. At the bottom of the pile was a letter, its edges torn. She read the first line and froze. If you can't pay the debt, the girl will be taken. A car engine roared outside. She shoved the papers back and ran to the window. Jamin was back. But he wasn't alone. Two black cars followed him through the gate. Men stepped out, tall, silent, armed. Her breath caught as she watched him greet them with a nod. Then one of the men looked up, straight toward her window. The lights flickered. Within seconds, Jamin stormed inside. "Pack your things," he said sharply. "What's happening?" "They found us." "Who?" He grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the stairs. "No time," she struggled against him. "Tell me what's going on." His voice cracked. "Amara, if they get you, I lose everything." The words didn't make sense, but the fear in his voice was real. Outside, gunfire shattered to silence. Glass exploded. Guard shouted. He pushed her behind him, drew his gun, and fired. The echo filled the marble halls like thunder. She screamed, covering her ears. He turned, his eyes wild. "Go. Back door now. I can't leave you." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a moment, time stopped. Rain dripped from the ceiling. Smoke curled through the air. His hand brushed her cheek. "You already did," he whispered. Then he turned and ran into the chaos. Amara stumbled outside, her gown tearing as she moved. Sirens wailed in the distance. She hid behind the fountain, her breath shallow. Every instinct screamed to run, but her heart wouldn't let her. She went back. Inside, the house burned in flashes of orange and shadow. She found him in the hall, bleeding from his shoulder, still fighting. "Jamin," she cried. He turned, shocked. "I told you to leave." "I couldn't." He laughed weakly. "You're insane." "So are you." They both ducked as bullets shattered the glass again. He grabbed her hand, dragging her down a side corridor, into a hidden door behind the staircase. The small room was dark, lit only by the emergency light above. He slumped against the wall, blood soaking his sleeve. Amara tore a piece of her dress and pressed it to his wound. "You need a doctor," he winced. "No doctors. Not for people like me." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this? Why protect me when I should hate you?" He looked at her, his breathing uneven. "Because hating me is safer than loving me." The silence that followed was unbearable. His hand brushed hers, hesitant, trembling. And in that brief touch, she felt the truth neither of them wanted to admit. Outside, the sirens grew louder. The chaos closed in. He met her eyes, voice breaking. "If I don't make it, don't say that, you run. Don't look back." Her lips quivered. "You're not dying on me, Jamin." He smiled faintly, tired but somehow soft. "You always were stubborn." Then the door burst open. Light flooded the room. And everything went dark. When Amara opened her eyes, the world was quiet again. Too quiet. The faint hum of a ceiling fan buzzed somewhere above her. Her head throbbed, her body heavy as if she'd been asleep for days. The air smelled of antiseptic and something metallic, blood. She turned her head slowly. The room wasn't a hospital. It was a Cephas. The cracked walls, the single window barred with steel, the flickering lamp on the side table, it all screamed temporary, hidden, unsafe. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her side. A low groan escaped her lips. "Don't move," a voice said softly. Her heart stopped. She knew that voice. Jamin stepped out of the shadows. His arm was bandaged, his shirt unbuttoned halfway, revealing the long scar across his chest. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "You're safe," he said quietly. Amara stared at him, words frozen in her throat. "Safe? You call this safe?" He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. "It's all I could manage. The cops think we're dead. The people chasing us, they'll stop searching soon." She swallowed hard, anger bubbling up again. "Why were they chasing us? What are you not telling me?" His jaw tightened. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He turned away, staring out the window, rain sliding down the glass just like that first night. "You remember high school?" Her chest tightened. "I remember you making my life hell." He didn't look back. "I remember that too. I was angry at you for something you didn't even do." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" He leaned against the wall, his voice low, distant. "My brother. He killed himself the year you transferred out. Everyone thought it was because of the fights at school, the gangs, the pressure. But he left a note." He paused. "He said he couldn't live with what he'd done to you." Amara blinked, confused. "To me? I didn't even know your brother." Jamin's eyes finally met hers, and in them was something raw, broken. "He wasn't just my brother. He was the one who started the rumors about you. He destroyed your name. I helped him. And when you left, he blamed himself. He couldn't take it." The words hit like ice water. Amara felt the breath leave her lungs. For years, she'd buried those memories, the whispers, the laughter, the way people looked at her like she was something dirty. All of it had started with them. "You ruined my life," she whispered, voice trembling. "I know, and now you'd think protecting me makes up for it." He didn't answer. Tears stuck her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You could have left me alone. You could have stayed out of my life." "I tried," he said, his tone breaking. "But when my father's people said your family owed money, I knew what they'd do to you. I couldn't let them take you." She froze. "My family owes you money?" He nodded. "Your father borrowed from the Kink Syndicate years ago. He thought he could run. He couldn't. I was ordered to find you, to make you repay the debt." Amara stared at him, horrified. "So this marriage, it wasn't real?" He looked away. "It was supposed to be a transaction." The silence that followed felt like they had vanished from the room. Her chest ached, every heartbeat sharp and slow. "And yet," she said finally, her voice barely audible, "you made me believe it was something more." Jamin's lips parted, but no words came out. Amara pushed herself up, ignoring the pain. "You used me," she said. "You made me fall for you just to save yourself." He stepped forward, desperate now. "No, I didn't plan that part." "Then what part did you plan, Jamin?" she whispered. "The lies? The wedding? The fear?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. His voice dropped. "Amara, listen to me. They won't stop. The people after us, they're from Seoul. They think killing you will erase a debt. If I let you go now, you die." "Maybe I'd rather die than live as your debt," she said, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. He closed his eyes, pain twisting through his expression. "Don't say that, I mean it." He turned sharply and punched the wall, the sound echoing through the small room. "You think I don't hate myself enough already?" She flinched at the outburst, but when he looked back at her, his voice was softer, shattered. "I wanted to fix what I broke. But all I did was break it again." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the rain outside and their uneven breathing. Finally, Amara whispered, "What happens now?" Jamin sighed. "I'm leaving tonight. I made a deal with someone. If I give them what they want, they'll erase your name from the list." She frowned. "What deal?" He hesitated. "Information. About the Kink Syndicate. It's dangerous, but it's the only way." Amara's stomach twisted. "You're betraying your own people?" His smile was tired, bitter. "I was never one of them." "Not really." He looked at her again, and there it was, that unbearable softness, the kind that made her heart ache and her mind scream to look away. "You deserve a life without me in it," he said quietly. "You always did." She wanted to argue, to scream, to demand he stay, but something in his eyes told her it was already too late. As later, she woke to the sound of footsteps. The room was empty. The lamp still flickered, the chair by the window still warm. On the table was a folded note, her name written in his handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Don't wait for me. If I come back, it means I failed. If I don't, it means you're free." She stared at the words until they blurred. Outside, dawn was breaking over Los Angeles, pale and silent. And somewhere out there, Jamin was walking into the lion's den, to trade his life for hers. Amara pressed the note to her chest, her tears soaking the ink. For the first time, she realized she didn't just love him. She understood him. The darkness, the pain, the endless circle of guilt. And it terrified her that she might never see him again. The night air over Los Angeles was heavy, thick with rain and silence. The city glowed beneath the storm like a heartbeat trying to survive in the dark. Jamin walked through an abandoned shipyard near the docks, the kind of place where deals were made and lives were lost. His steps echoed against the wet concrete. Every move he made was deliberate, like a man walking toward his own execution. The wind carried the sound of distant sirens. His phone buzzed once, a message from a block number. "Come alone. Warehouse 47. He wiped the rain from his face and kept walking. He could already see them, 4 black cars parked near the rusted containers, silhouettes of men in coats, and the faint red glow of cigarette tips in the dark. And in the middle of them stood Min-ho Kang, the man who ran everything. His uncle. His blood. The one who had built the empire on fear and violence. "You really came," Min-ho said, voice calm, almost amused. "I didn't think you'd have the guts." Jamin stopped a few feet away. "You wanted me. I'm here." Min-ho took a slow drag of his cigarette, studying him. "I heard you married the American girl. Pretty. Smart. Shame she's your weakness." Jamin's fists clenched, but he stayed silent. "Do you know what happens to traitors in this family?" Min-ho continued. "You don't get to just walk away, Jamin. You owe blood." Jamin looked him straight in the eye. "Then take mine." But leave her out of this. Laughter rippled through the men around them. You think I'll bargain for a woman? Minho said, tossing the cigarette away. You disappoint me. Jamin reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a flash drive. This has everything. The offshore accounts. The names. The deals with the US importers. You turn me in, you lose everything. You let her go, and you keep your empire. For the first time, Minho's smile faded. You stole from me? I took what I built, Jamin said, voice steady. This is my trade. The rain hit harder, wind cutting through the silence. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Minho's expression hardened. You think you can threaten me? I think you care more about your money than my life, Jamin said. Minho's eyes flickered, a dangerous glint. Then he nodded once. You always were too much like your brother. Soft. He turned to one of his men. Bring the girl. Jamin froze. What? Before he could react, two guards dragged someone from the car. Amra. Her hands were tied, her hair soaked, her eyes wide with fear. She had followed him. Jamin. She cried. His heart dropped. No, what did you do? Minho smirked. You thought we didn't know. She's the reason you're here, boy. Your little weakness delivered herself to me. Jamin's voice broke. Let her go. This is between us. Minho stepped closer to Amara, gripping her chin roughly. Pretty, but foolish. Do you know what he really is, girl? He's a murderer. A liar. He brought death to everyone who ever trusted him. Stop! Jamin shouted. But Minho didn't stop. He turned to his men. Kill her. Everything exploded at once. Jamin moved before they could aim. He fired 2 shots, hitting both guards in the chest. The sound cracked through the air, echoing off the metal containers. Chaos erupted, shouts, gunfire, the smell of smoke and blood. Amara dropped to the ground as bullets tore through the rain. Jamin grabbed her, pulling her behind a stack of crates. Are you insane? He shouted. Why did you follow me? Because I wasn't going to let you die for me. She screamed back, tears mixing with rain. He shook his head, bleeding from a cut across his cheek. You should have stayed gone. Too late for that now. They looked at each other, two broken souls trapped between love and death. Then he kissed her, desperate, raw, final. It was the kind of kiss that burned more than it healed. Gunfire snapped them apart. He turned, firing back, covering her as they ran toward the side exit. The flash drive clattered to the ground. He picked it up, slipping it into her pocket. If I don't make it, don't. She shouted. Don't you dare say that again. He smiled sadly. You always finish my sentences for me. Another shot rang out. Jamin staggered. Blood spread across his shirt, dark and fast. Jamin. She screamed, catching him as he fell to his knees. He gasped, his breath shallow. Go run, I'm not leaving you. He pressed his hand to her cheek, his eyes glassy but still burning with that same impossible love. You already saved me once. No, please. Minho stepped out from behind the crates, gun in hand, his expression unreadable. I told you, boy. No one betrays family. Jamin glared up at him, blood on his lips. Then I guess I never was family. He pulled a small detonator from his pocket. The light blinked red. Amara's eyes whitened. Jamin, what did you? He whispered. Forgive me. Minho realized too late. No. The explosion ripped through the warehouse, fire blooming like a second sunrise. The blast threw Amara backward, the world spinning in smoke and heat. She hit the ground hard, ears ringing, vision blurred. Through the flames, she saw him, Jamin, standing for a second, framed in orange light, before disappeared in fire. Then darkness. When she opened her eyes again, dawn was breaking over the harbor. The warehouse was gone, just twisted metal and smoke. The sirens wailed somewhere far away. Her hands were shaking as she pulled herself up. The flash drive was still in her pocket. She clutched it to her chest, sobbing. There was no sign of him. No body. No voice. Only the echo of his last words, forgive me. She walked until her legs gave out, collapsing near the water. The wind was cold against her skin, the ocean stretching endlessly before her. She whispered his name once, softly, as if the sea could carry it to him. And for a moment, she swore she heard him, a faint whisper in the wind, like a ghost of a promise. You're free now. The weeks after the explosion blurred together like a half-remembered dream. Smoke still hung over the Los Angeles docks for days, black against the pale sky. Authorities said it was a gang war gone wrong. They found bodies, ashes, fragments of names, but not his. Amara watched the reports from a safe apartment provided by the FBI. They had traced a flash drive jam and gave her evidence of money laundering, illegal trades, and murders linked to the Kemp Syndicate. Because of it, half the organization fell within a month. They called her a survivor, a witness, but never by her name. At night she sat by the window, watching the city lights tremble across the bay. Sometimes, when the wind carried the scent of the ocean, she could almost hear him, that quiet whisper, the echo of his voice saying, "You're free now." Freedom tasted like loss. She kept the flash drive in a small box beside her bed. She never opened it again, but she couldn't throw it away. It was the last piece of him she had, proof that his sacrifice wasn't just smoke and fire, but something that changed everything. Months passed. Her bruises healed, her hair grew long again, her laughter came back in fragments. Yet she never stopped checking the shadows when she walked home, never stopped turning when someone said his name in passing. One evening, she visited the memorial by the pier. The wind was cold, biting through her coat. Flowers and candles lined the railings where the warehouse once stood. A small plaque read, "For those who were lost in the harbor fire." She traced the words with her fingers, eyes closing. "You weren't supposed to go like that," she whispered. The sea answered only with waves. She stayed until the candles flickered out. Then, as she turned to leave, something caught her eye, a single white arrhythmic crane resting on the railing. Its wings were soaked from rain, but the paper was thick, folded perfectly. Her breath caught. No one knew what that meant, except her. Back in high school, before fell apart, Jamin used to fold cranes and leave them on her desk. Everyone carried the same message hidden inside. "Someday, I'll be better." She picked it up, hands trembling. Unfolding it slowly, she found the same handwriting inside, faint but unmistakable. "I kept my promise." Her knees nearly gave out. She clutched the note to her chest, tears spilling freely now. He was alive. Somewhere. The world spun softly around her, the rain, the hard lights, the ache in her heart that finally felt like breathing again. She turned toward the water, whispering through the tears, "Where are you?" Far across the bay, hidden in the dark, a figure watched. A man with a scar down his cheek and a shadow in his eyes. He stood beneath the cover of a black hood, invisible to the passing crowd. Jamin. He'd escaped at night through the sea tunnels below the docks, crawling through smoke and blood until he found light again. The explosion had buried his past and burned away his name. The world believed he was dead, and maybe he was. The man he used to be had died in the fire. But the one who watched her now was quiet, ghost-like, living between worlds. He couldn't let her see him. Not yet. Every instinct screamed to call her name, to run to her, to hold her one last time. But he stayed in the shadows. If she knew he lived, she'd never be safe. The men who still hunted him would never stop. So he simply stood there, watching the woman he once broken and saved, the one who taught him what life meant when he no longer deserved it. Amra looked out across the water again. She felt it, that strange, unexplainable pull in her chest, the kind that happens when someone you love is nearby. She didn't see him, but her eyes softened, and she smiled through her tears. "I'll find you," she whispered to the night. Someday. The words drifted through the rain, crossing the distance like a prayer. Jamin closed his eyes, letting the sound wash over him. For the first time in years, he smiled, faint, almost broken, but real. He whispered back, voice lost to the wind, "I'll be waiting." Then he turned away, disappearing into the fog, leaving nothing behind but a faint scent of smoke and salt, and the hope that love, no matter how impossible, never truly dies. Weeks later, Amra moved north, away from the city that held both her nightmares and her memories. She started working with a community outreach program for at-risk youth, teaching them art, origami, and second chances. Her students didn't know her story. They only knew she smiled softly when they folded cranes, as if remembering someone she once knew. Every night, before she locked up the small classroom, she placed one crane by the window. Always white. Always facing west, toward the ocean. Sometimes, in the quiet, she thought she saw a shadow pulse across the street, a silhouette framed by the glow of passing cars. She never ran after it. She never called out. She simply smiled and whispered, "I know you're there," because some loves don't need words anymore. They live in the spaces between breaths, in the sound of rain against glass, in the flicker of streetlights, in every heartbeat that refuses to forget. And even though the world called it tragedy, Amra knew better. It was love, dangerous, painful, and unfinished. But it was hers.